When you think of a monster, do you think of a grotesque, horrifying creature? Or do you think of the existential, psychological monstrosity that could lie within us, within you? No? Just me? Okay. Created by Tarsier Studios in 2017, Little Nightmares is a mixed 2D 3D platformer horror game that takes place on a mysterious seafaring vessel called the Maw. You are in the shoes of a young child named Six, a reoccurring character in the series, as she explores the Maw, with a silent goal not even the player is aware of, if one exists at all. Using Little Nightmares as an example, we can explore how the game's portrayal of monstrosity opens discussions on social and cultural threats and taboos. We can also use it to figure out why monsters are so often associated with a grotesque appearance. Daryl Jones, author of Horror, A Very Short Introduction, argues that monstrosity has transcended its status as a metaphor and has indeed become a necessary condition for our existence in the 21st century. He sees monstrosity as a coping mechanism with which we can explore different anxieties we have about the world around us in a relatively controlled environment. What I will argue as I examine this game is that while it is true that we can use monstrosity in video games to evoke and process fear about society or the world around us, it does not always need to manifest itself in the form of a physical being. Rather, it can manifest in the environments the players traverse when you play with scale and perspective, but most critically, it can manifest in the players themselves. As Six ascends through the different levels of the Maw, remember that sentence, it's important, we'll get back to it later, she comes across increasingly horrific scenes and grotesque individuals who appear to staff this vessel. The lower levels are initially dark and dank, seemingly infested with leech-like creatures that swarm the player when they turn down the wrong hallway, or succumb to the Maw's poor infrastructure. Oh, right. Oh, okay, I hate this. This section concludes with Six's stomach grumbling, with an anonymous caged child throwing her what I can only hope to be a potato. The player then continues up through the Maw, encountering a playroom and a bedroom full of what appears to be children. Then, the first truly monstrous figure appears, the janitor, with a stout body and uncannily long, disfigured arms. It's through a careful, but not too careful, examination of the janitor's physique that we can examine the body horror element of monstrosity. According to Jones, body horror is the use of transformation and disfigurement of the body in often graphic ways and often to radical ends. These disfigurements are meant to scare the player, but also to fascinate them, making them want to learn why or how it is happening. A spectacle you simply can't look away from. The janitor's design follows this to a T. His body creaks as he moves. His arms and hands are long enough to be discomforting, but not enough to make it satirical. His skin sags, almost as if he's wearing a mask of skin, with no visible eyes, just a mouth that makes sounds that are entirely alien. Is his appearance a representation of who he truly is? Or is he covering something up? Or could his appearance and position in the Maw's hierarchy be a punishment? After escaping the janitor, this section yet again concludes with Six getting hungry, except this time the only food around is a rat that just got itself caught in a trap. This is the part of the game where you will start to notice the environments appearing more and more monstrous. There are explicit examples, such as the room that is always watching, making sure children do not misbehave, and there are also more symbolic examples, such as the grotesque and warped furniture in the buildings that always appear to overbear the player. Several environments demonstrate how explicit monstrosity can be used as a metaphor, and this room is perfect. It provides a clue to what is happening to the children and possibly unseen adults aboard the vessel, with a direct reference to similar images we have likely seen in history books. You see genocidal imagery, and when you're forced to jump into this pit of shoes, it comes alive, attempting to swallow you as well. This room alone exemplifies how monstrous imagery can be used as metaphors for atrocities we deal with in real life. I also found that monstrosity of the environments can be symbolic as well. I first noticed this when exploring the janitor's living space, but it's prevalent throughout the Maw. Doors are disproportionately large compared to you, even accounting for the fact that you play as a young child. The environment is designed to make it feel like you are always being watched, even by furniture or the walls. The player then finds the kitchen, which involves them navigating through pantries, bedrooms, coolers, and dishwashing areas, all the while avoiding two creatures that look somewhat humanoid, wearing chef's aprons and what appear to be masks made out of skin, very similar to the janitor's face. However, this is where their physical monstrosity ends and something much more sinister begins. And I'm not talking about their atrocious kitchen sanitation practices. He put it in his pocket. It's here that Little Nightmares once again provides a form of monstrosity that is less of a physical category and instead a taboo. These chefs are not cooking a regular meal. They're cooking children that the janitor looks after. Jones notes that our contemporary society is obsessed with our own consumption, as we constantly create monsters whose only goal is to eat us. Little Nightmares is no different, and after making this discovery by following what is sometimes a literal trail of corpses, the player is almost certain to be shocked and disgusted, achieving the purpose the monstrosity was set to fulfill. After making a daring run towards a conveyor machine and flying away from the cooks, the player finally makes it to the outside of the maw, just in time to see what appears to be human-like figures boarding the ship. As the player ascends to the higher levels of the ship, they find the new arrivals are coming here to eat and perform other hedonistic activities. But after Six makes her way through the dining hall, she once again grows hungry. Desperately searching, she finds a gnome, one of the only friendly creatures on the maw, holding up a sausage for her. But the sausage will not quell her hunger. After the player recovers from what they saw, they chase the woman they saw earlier up into an elevator and into what is presumably her living quarters. As they chase after her, they can see that many of the portraits in the area have been covered up, and all of the mirrors have been shattered. They eventually come across the singular intact mirror, which they must use to confront the mysterious woman, slowly weakening her and eventually causing the mirror to shatter. Six is knocked unconscious, and when she wakes up, her stomach begins to growl again. I want to go back to the sentence I told you to remember at the start of the video, where I talked about Six ascending through the levels of the maw. Throughout this game, you slowly see Six's travels taking a toll on her, outside the player's control. This is most obvious when she grows hungry, with her desired meal becoming increasingly sentient. As we follow Six throughout the maw, we are repeatedly subject to imagery of ascension, which is unlike the classic descent into madness trope we see in other horror games and media. Instead, she ascends to higher and higher levels of the maw. She grows more bold, more powerful, more monstrous. What's more, agency is stripped from the player each time this occurs, demonstrating that this ascent into monstrosity is entirely out of the player's control. This type of monstrosity, where it manifests within the character and outside of the player's control, slowly makes the player question their own character's morality and goals, and becomes increasingly shocking as each new meal conflicts with the player's sense of morality more and more. Little Nightmares concludes with Six slowly leaving the maw, but this is not the Six the player has grown to know throughout the game. The player controls how quickly she moves towards the door, but they cannot stop her from killing the patrons she walks by. Her innocence is gone. She is no longer scared of the creatures of the maw because she has become one herself. The final shot ends with her walking up the stairs into the light, and for the first time, the camera does not follow her. Through the use of many ludic elements, Little Nightmares transcends the traditional bounds of monstrosity, and by using the medium of video games, it can evoke and help process social and cultural fears not only through the traditional physical forms of monstrosity, but also through psychological forms. It then increases the shock and horror value by restricting autonomy and forcing the player into a heightened sense of vulnerability by making them a child who can do nothing but run and hide.